Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon. Welcome to our Friday biohack webinar. And today, on Fridays, we like to talk about lifestyle. What can you do in order to support your rejuvenation process with Telloyuth and Telomega? In other words, other things in your environment, your epigenetics, affects how you rejuvenate or age. And so Friday's call today is regarding something that's kind of been hot in the airwaves over the last few years. And we see a resurgence. And so today we're going to talk about COVID. Good morning, Dr. Chris.
Good morning, Dr. Tina, and good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this Friday morning. This topic, I just want to help everyone get a handle on where we're at with dealing with the flu season every fall and viruses that come in, and also there appears to be an uptick in the COVID infections. But this is somewhat expected. It's not on a pandemic level, and it's just requiring a little bit more accurate monitoring. And when we say monitoring, that means that we have the emergency room visits that are reported, doctors reporting minimal testing now. There's not a vast amount of testing. But also, we've developed technologies where we can actually check the municipal wastewater for detection of the virus. So this is why we're speaking about this morning, not to be overly concerned, just be aware. And here's the thing about viruses. They're neither good or bad, because it really depends on the terrain that makes the difference. It's the health of your body, because the same virus in one part of the body could be causing an infection, and another part could be facilitating its metabolic function. The same virus. So understand that it's just a microbial dynamic of nature that facilitates nature's processes. And our response to those viruses depend upon our health, our terrain, the vitality. And this is why we do these lifestyle trainings and webinars, so that you can understand how to maintain your health and well-being optimally. And Dr. Tina, we can get into some of the differences here with the COVID viruses versus, the difference between what we have with the coronavirus versus a rhinovirus, a cold, right? So anything you want to share this morning so far?
No, I'm good, thanks. I'm just handling the panel here.
Okay. So if we look at the statistics, show that, from the past calculations of the infections, 85% of those infected experienced no symptom at all, and 13% had a respiratory or flu-like condition, and the percentage of fatal responses were somewhere between 1% and 2%. And this really depended upon the health of the individual when they were exposed to the virus and the type of infection that they got from that. So, healthcare providers experience 5 times that rate, and that's not unusual because of the stress that they encounter. So we talk a lot about stress and how to mediate that, and why Telloyuth is so important to understand, because it's one of its key components is mediating stress. So let's look at the differences between the types of infections that we get, especially a cold versus a coronavirus, Dr. Tina.
Sure. Yes, and I even want to mention, even though there is another storm here with COVID, we don't want to be afraid of it, as you mentioned, but the new strains are not as infectious or virulent. So keep in mind, we're not going to end up on that pandemic level, and those are reports from the CDC. So keep in mind, it's a virus. We have viruses around us, and we need to keep our bodies healthy. Okay, so people wonder, do I have a cold or do I have COVID? And I think this is going to go on for a while. But if you look over here on the left-hand side, you'll see that there's fevers or chills. And with the common cold, it's very rare. With COVID, it's very common. Headaches for the common cold are uncommon, but they're very common with COVID. When you see the tightness or the pressure in the chest, that's the respiratory distress. Sometimes you'll have this with a cold, if you get a cold in your lungs, but it's very common with COVID, okay? Also coughing. You're going to be coughing with a cold. It's going to be a wet cough. And with COVID, it's going to be a dry cough. Okay. Stuffy and runny nose, common with both. Sneezing, it's rare with COVID, but common with the cold. Sore throats, both are going to give you a sore throat, potentially. Loss of taste or smell. This was a big one when COVID first went around. A lot of people were experiencing loss of taste and or smell. And that is very common with COVID. It's very uncommon with a cold, of course, unless you have, the mucus backup. And then diarrhea, it's very rare with the common cold, but COVID, it can happen sometimes. And those muscle aches and pains, it's very uncommon with a cold, but very common with COVID-19. So you might want to take your phone and get a picture of this so that you can feel comfortable distinguishing, okay, do I have a cold or do I have COVID? And, sometimes when we get sick, we end up in a place where our vulnerability is there and we just think, oh my goodness, I have COVID. But the common cold has been around a lot longer than COVID, okay? So you're more than likely to get the common cold versus COVID. Hopefully this helps you. Dr. Chris?
Yes, and the other thing is the incubation period, meaning how it impacts the body. And with a cold, usually it's a relatively short period. You're exposed to the rhinovirus, and within 1 to 3 days you get the cold. But with COVID, it can take as much as 2 to 14 days. So give yourself a sense of, okay, what have I been exposed to in the last couple of weeks versus last few days? That might help determine what's going on. And of course, with any type of illness, there's always fatigue, because the body takes its energy and focuses it inward to heal and repair, and not outward for the expenditure. So honor that. This is when you need to take that extra time to rest and pamper and do the extra fluids and cut down on the food, because oftentimes, a cold is from just overdoing it, and especially from the dietary side, and you just have a cleansing reaction. That's all a cold really is. It's an opportunity for the virus to take hold because of all the junk that's built up in our bodies. So these are just things, common sense things to know and understand, and help others, yourself and your family understand the difference. Dr. Tina.
Yes, rest, rest, rest. And remember, it's your terrain, it's not the bug. You need to remember that. So we're going to talk about some of those things that you can do to enhance your terrain, all right? But the one thing that lowers immunity and lets those little buggers in is stress. And we talk about stress so much because we have to be able to handle stress. And we are in some of the most stressful times on this planet. And I mean that with the foods, the air, all of the technology, the EMFs, the visible, the invisible. And so we have to take a step back and look at what can we do. And with use, it's just a great tool to bring down those stress hormones. And we can do that and we've done that by measuring cortisols. We've shown that we've been able to reduce that cortisol with our fertilized tissue extract as much as 50% with athletes. And the reason why it's so critical with athletes is because they have stress. So think about your daily stress. It's almost like we are under that kind of stress as an athlete with everything that's coming at us. And we need our bodies to be resilient and strong. And telloyouth helps to bring down those cortisols and build the resiliency again so that we can handle stress. Dr. Chris?
Yeah, let's show how we have just really two very key ingredients here that help mediate stress. We have the studies of the FTE that Dr. Tina just reflected on the previous slide, and the studies of the rhodiola. The rhodiola is, we call it the super relaxer because it impacts the central nervous system. And it helps the body just chill, calm, relax. And we know that when we are constantly bombarded by so many different onslaughts, invaders, different types of stressors, it's important to be able to have something to neutralize that and deal with it so that we're not overwhelmed. And Dr. Tina, anything more you want to say? These two ingredients, they're synergistic with each other. These two ingredients do so much more, but this is the key area when we're talking about helping the body maintain its resilience and its health, the stress mediation.
Yes, and these two ingredients truly help us to lose the fear, bring down the fear factor because the cortisol's come down. We can relax and calm the central nervous system and get more centered and feel like, okay, we're not in that fear factor. So again, very important to not go into fear around all of this.
Yeah, Dr. Tina, just to back up 1 second here, the fear factor, I'm going to diverge a little bit. It plays such an important role. And if you take your telloyouth and tell yourself, okay, I'm helping to relax the body, I'm helping to mediate the stress of fear. There's nothing to fear because I'm helping my system. There was an interesting study done in the 1950s, and it's kind of gross in this sense because what they did is they put rats into a tank of water, these little water vessels, and they wanted to see how long they would survive before they would drown. And on average, it took about 15 minutes. I mean, this is a terrible study, but it just proves a point. But what they learned is that when they did the test and put the rats in water and subjected them to the stress one more time, just before the 15-minute mark, they would pull them out of the water and dry them off, and they were rescued. And then they would put them back in the water to see how long they would last after the first stressful event. And it's just remarkable. You think they would go maybe max 15 more minutes, 5 minutes maybe, or just 10 minutes. They went for 60 hours, not minutes, 60 hours. And the reason is that they knew that they were going to be rescued, and they lost the fear factor. The fear factor is what compromised their body's ability to endure, to have resilience. So this is a very cruel study, but it really proves a major point that fear just overwhelms the body. And when you can take your telloyouth, and Dr. Tina, you and I both know, we take it and we just feel this wave of calm come through our bodies. Like we'll take it just before, going out to talk to an audience or just doing an event or any type of presentation. that calm that comes over you. You get comfortable with it, and it helps you so much to overcome that fear factor. Anything else you want to share on that? I just thought this is just a powerful, powerful study to understand the psychological dynamics of fear.
Thank you for bringing up that study. I remember that study. That's pretty phenomenal. No, let's go ahead and move into the immune system and our aloe vera gel extract. And it not only rebuilds the receptors on the outside of our cells, but it also supports our mitochondrial enhancement, our energy production. And we call this the super healer because it reduces inflammation. And it also helps to balance blood sugars in the body. We also support our intracellular antioxidants and the free radical scavengers with our 400-to-1 concentrate. And look at this. Number 3, direct antimicrobial, which includes antiviral effects and prevention. So you can see how we truly support the terrain to stay strong when we are exposed to all of these viruses. And just know too that it's immune modulating. In other words, if your immune system is overactive, it's going to help bring it down. If it's underactive, it's going to help bring it up. So that modulating effect helps us to stay balanced and healthy with our immune system as well.
Yes, Dr. Tina, and these 4 categories, they apply to either fresh aloe or the aloe vera gel extract we use in our Tello유스. So this just isn't any aloe off the shelf. To get these kinds of results, and especially the antiviral, antimicrobial effect, you need the aloe that's in our Tello유스 to do this powerful, prevention and recovery from any type of condition that supports your immune system. This topic, we did a whole call on it, right, Dr. Tina? I believe last week. So that's one that you want to tune into and really learn about how powerful our aloe vera is.
Yes, and we're not saying that if you're taking Tello유스, you won't get a cold or you won't get COVID. What we're saying is, first of all, you possibly could prevent, but you will also have a better response to the viruses so that maybe they won't last as long, or maybe you'll recover quicker. So just know that, your body is dynamic, everyone is different, and we do not know what your DNA is. We do not know what your environment is or what your past has been. What we do know is this can help you get stronger so you can mitigate the side effects of getting it or even contracting the virus. So what can you do? We've done an entire call on time-restricted eating. So time-restricted eating is really important. And it's the reason why we center around this is because the body needs to rest. The digestion needs to rest and the immune system needs to rebuild. And if you're putting food into your body all day long, with long periods of eating food, like morning to late evening, you're really putting extra stress on your body. When you do eat, make sure they're nutrient-dense meals. You're going to want to stay away from the inner aisles of the grocery stores and go to the outer aisles. That's where you're going to find the fresh produce. You're going to find the good grass-fed beef and the wild-caught fish. And, that's where you want to stay, out of the center aisles. Definitely remove processed foods, things in a box, in a bag, alcohol and sugars, though especially high fructose corn syrup, and sodas and all of those things. Hopefully all of you on this call now have finally given that up. Get outside. We need fresh air, whether it's just a walk or, you're sitting outside. Make sure you're getting outside. If you can't get outside, open your windows. I know right now we're all going through a heat wave. It's very difficult to have our windows open, but at night, if it cools down enough, please open those windows, get the good air into your homes. Dr. Chris, you want to talk about the next one?
I just want to reemphasize what you just said. Your environment is so important, so that good air is so important to get outside, as well as make sure your inside is important. So, we talk about proper hydration, of course, and then the vitamins, that boost the immune system. Vitamin C, we all know, D3 and K2 and vitamin A. These are the fat soluble vitamins. And when you take your Telo Omega and provide that proper balance of the good fats in your body, it facilitates the function of these very powerful immune enhancing vitamins. So these are the vitamins that are so key and so important. Dr. Tina, you want to talk about some of the different herbs and
I
nutrients?
do. I'd like to touch a little bit on vitamin D, because 90% of us are deficient. And, in the summer months, we still need about 8,000 to 10,000 units of vitamin D a day. Get your levels checked. If you're 40 and over, you're okay. Winter months, by the way, for those of us here up in the north that don't get that outside exposure, we're looking at 10,000 to 25,000 units a day. And it helps reduce our risk of the viral infections, of getting COVID, not only helping bone health and immune support, but with your vitamin D, for it to work well, you need K2 and you must have magnesium. Some of the foods, like magnesium-rich foods, for instance, are going to be the dark leafy greens, almonds, raw almonds, not, you want to make sure you're not eating roasted nuts. You want to eat raw. And then I soak mine in water to overnight in the refrigerator to just break down that shell so they digest better. And then when you're looking at magnesium, most people need a minimum of 500 milligrams a day. Okay, so magnesium and D3 are very synergistic with each other. Also, turmeric, an incredible antioxidant. It helps with gut health as well. NAC, N-acetylcysteine. This is something that helps us to replenish our own glutathione, which is our own native antioxidant that we make with the liver. And then we have quercetin, which is flavonoids, and those are antioxidants, anti-inflammatories. You'll find those in foods like berries, green tea, apples. So those are, the quercetin is really good to have during this time of the year when the viruses are going around. And zinc, we've heard of zinc throughout the years. We don't want to eliminate that. And then we have selenium, another mineral, B complex, which is really important for, energy production, really protecting the heart. And then we have melatonin. And, Dr. Chris and I talk about, if you can make it, don't take it. This one is a little bit on that side where if you are not sleeping at night, your cortisols are high and your melatonin is low. So you may need to supplement extra with your melatonin. And even if you want to do some prevention for viruses, you can boost your immune function with melatonin. It also helps to recharge your glutathione naturally. It also prevents cytokine storms. In other words, keeping your immune system from overreacting as well. And then it's interesting, higher doses of melatonin have also been used as treatment for COVID long haulers. And so when you're looking at how much you should take, it's about 10 milligrams at night when you're looking to, protect yourself. And you want to start slow, start with 1 milligram and move your way up. And if it starts keeping you awake at night when you take it, you want to move it back down. That means you're taking too much. And the other thing melatonin does is it helps with that vitamin D signaling. So you can see there's some real synergy with all of these different vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that we're recommending to support yourself along with your Telo-Youth and your Telo-Mega. Dr. Chris.
Yes, and here's the synergy of our Friday presentations, because you can see how we talk about the circadian cycles as it was a whole conversation, and that's so important to understand why to get outside. You go outside in the morning to set your circadian clock so that you can produce the melatonin appropriately and the cortisols appropriately at the right time. And then you get outdoors in the afternoon for that, sun that gives you the vitamin D, and you build up your solar callus. And this is why, we really don't approve of sunscreens. It's really about getting out there and building your natural adaptation to receiving the sun in the afternoon, and gradually start, slowly 15, 20 minutes, build up, and you'll see how that'll improve your overall health and well-being. And so this is all part of, during the spring and summer and fall, you can get outdoors and get that exercise in to get the good sun and get the good exercise that helps the body build up its endurance. Exercise just can't be underemphasized, meaning you need the cardiovascular for just the good heart health and lung and heart's health and conditioning, and also the resistance training where you're doing some type of weight or body resistance, and this builds up a whole nother dimension of your body's signaling and communication and the different types of molecules it makes, especially for enhancing growth and development of the tissue integrity. So all of this combined will help you get good sleep at night, because you've reestablished your natural rhythms and cycles. So it's no coincidence that we see the dilemma with viruses and bacteria just infecting just the masses today, and you get these global types of infections because we've lost our connection to nature. We've lost our ability to understand how important the good foods and nutrition is, how important the exposure to the outdoors and good exercise and breathing and sun. So all of this is talking about healthy lifestyle, and the healthy lifestyle gives you that healthy terrain, and a healthy terrain keeps you immune from the types of things that the rest of the world is just so fearful of. And Dr. Tina, I just want to wrap up here for myself, is that, Louis Pasteur is the father of, immunization and pasteurization. And he was the one that really got the whole medical community interested in working with immunizing individuals to prevent infections. But at his deathbed, he, admitted that it's the milieu, is how he said it. It's the terrain that matters rather than the infecting pathogen. So it's your terrain that you have to maintain, and then all the viruses and bacteria that we're exposed to, and there's no way we can avoid them because it's just part of our existence in nature and culture, that you can protect yourself best by understanding how to build your terrain.